What is up, Junkie Nation? Today is the pre-show, and it is me and it's the Dan and Dan pre-show, I guess, right, Danny?
We're calling it. It's got to be like 70 sitcom, so it's My Two Dans.
My Two.
That's what we're calling it. My Two Dans. It's filmed before a live studio audience. Just in case you were wondering, there's our live studio audience. It's called My Two Dans. Right now we're opening the two doors, and they're like hitting each other, and we both like giving each other a weird look because we banged the two doors into each other. You know.
They're wondering why they had to sign waivers when they're way in on that, but they couldn't sue us for anything we said. They're looking at us really funny right now. That's probably going on, right? A little bit of that, Danny.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Speaking of shows, you've always been a host with the mostest in your own ways, whether it's on stage or behind a mic. But you got a show going on right now, huh?
I do. It's been interesting so far, and I do have to say, Junkie Nation has been awesome so far. Some of the junkies that I have met, and some that I haven't met yet. Like I know Martin from Hawaii. I haven't seen him, but they're always in there and they're giving major support for it. So I gotta give a big shout out to Martin and to everybody else from Junkie Nation, Johnny Rico, and a bunch of people have just been kind of in that chat room because it's one of those things where you can chat with us live while we're doing it and stuff like that. Almost exactly like this show. You could chat with us today live.
That's right. And if they wanted to follow it along, like you guys are on YouTube or an address we can go for the show because you got one coming up this week.
I do. Well, I always put it up in the Junkie in the combat chat because it's a little difficult to find us. If you want to find some past shows, it's called Poppin' Off. And that if you just go to YouTube and you look up Poppin' Off, you'll find us. There are a couple like rap songs and some weird rock songs that have that title. But if you look down, there are only a couple with my crazy blue hair in them, and they say Popping Off. But I think eventually the goal is to get like a Facebook and our own Twitter and kind of stuff like that, so I can actually direct people directly to something to find and other links. But for now, I'm doing a pretty good job at posting it around as much as possible. So if you follow me, or if you follow the Combat Chat, the MMAjunkie Radio Combat Chat online, I usually always put links for it in there, so it's easy to find.
That's awesome, and I will say, there's a lot of variety to the show. Not to use the word variety show, but it's a variety that I think like a lot of junkies or people might listen to this might like, because as you guys can tell, a lot of the MMA demographic, we share a lot of the same interests and stuff, whether it's like nerding out on the same type of movies, products, or kind of what's hot kind of thing. So I will say, like, it's definitely worth a check out. Like you're probably going to find something that's going to be you're going to enjoy. So
yeah, definitely. And yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it. And we are coming up in 10. So
okay,
it's time to start this show.
Cool. All right. We'll see you on the other side. Catch you on the flip side, Junkie Nation.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMAjunkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMAjunkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMAjunkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMAjunkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMAjunkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is Danny Otto, the producer. He's back east. Dan Tom is the fight analyst. That's because Ghost still isn't here, but he'll be here tomorrow. What's up, guys?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Good. Good, thank you. And you?
Good, man. It's a crazy combat sports weekend, and feels like we're in the washing machine of MMA, but I'm doing good, man.
Feels good, in a way, for it to have happened last night. One of the two shows that we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
You know, Saturday is very cool. Trust me, I prefer Saturday. But a Sunday event is not the end of the world because it just happened. You know, like, it's really, really fresh off of our minds. I think some of us still feel emotion towards the results, whether it's a favorite fighter that won, a parlay that hit, the devastation of maybe your favorite fighter not coming through, whatever, you know. And so the quick turnaround, you know, about 12 hours or so, is something that I enjoy from time to time.
I do as well too. I don't
You a
mind
Sunday guy or no?
I don't mind. I was gonna say I don't mind the Sunday, but I'm a weird demographic though, George, which may be better to get our opinion because you're a big football guy, obviously, and not that I'm against football, but with my schedule and just habits of the past couple years, I haven't had that traditional Sunday seat for other sports. So for me, it's no big deal. It's almost you can have your Saturday kind of back because even if you're a hardcore like myself, who for years have planned your work and personal schedule around fight events. Everybody likes having a Saturday off, right?
It was pretty cool.
Right?
Yeah. We had Bellator 194 on Friday, but basically Saturday was just chill. Go out and do something or stay home or do nothing, whatever you prefer, because Sunday was, the way they were going to do things. And I like that they do it every once in a while. I wouldn't want it every week. I don't mind the Tuesday Contender show when that was popping this past summer. Please bring that back, by the way.
Yeah.
But midweek when we have the Ultimate Fighter, that's cool too. I feel like you always have a chance to touch a different demographic and possibly rein in new fans. All right, so let's start off with what happened on Friday. Bellator 194 in the main event, Matt Mitrione decision, Roy Nelson. Now, it was controversial, and a lot of people were booing. But I don't know that I disagree too much with the judges. I may be one of those that's on the other side of a Roy Nelson middle finger, because he strongly disagreed with that decision. I understand his point, but as I was sitting there, I was thinking, this could. I basically convinced myself that it can go in both ways, and in the end, I think what hurt Roy Nelson was the rounds that he thought he won. Basically, because he was always winding up on the ground in a top dominant position. He just didn't have enough damage while he was there and enough time in the position. So of the two rounds, they were a little bit different. In the first round, he had more time on top, not as much damage. And in the second round, he only got there with about a minute to go. And yet again, not as much damage. So Mitrione, when he was striking, looked good. He was hitting them with a variety of strikes. And, I mean, he was very efficient. It was almost like one of those college or high school teams where you go, holy cow, they're shooting out the lights. They're shooting 70%. They can't stay on fire like this. But Matt Mitrione was very efficient, Of course, Roy's got a chin made out of granite, and that wasn't going to stop him. He got wobbled, but he was still able to, like I said, get Mitrione down and do some version of ground and pound. Nothing, like I said, that it was devastating enough that it was enough to sway the judges. But at least in the first round, he had time. They talk about duration, dominance. One other D. Remember John McCarthy said it?
Yeah.
Dominance, duration, and damage. Yeah. And so you got to be hitting those check marks. Now, in round one, he had more duration. Did he have as much damage? Probably not. But he did have domination, whereas he was kind of getting into positions that were sort of dominant. Not like a full mount or a back take or anything like that. But he was still progressing. So, again, because I'm saying that, because I'm struggling to convince you that he had it, I could see why the judges just weren't hitting those check marks. So, anyway, the decision comes. Matt Mitrione has his hand raised, and he moves on. He moves on to the semifinals. Chael Sonnen moved on last month. Matt Mitrione joins them, and we have 6 competitors left in the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. 2 more quarterfinals yet to be determined, but we'll be left with 4, and this tournament will just move on. Now, Roy Nelson did say, it's not the end of me. I will be competing for a title at the end of the season or at the end of the year, and I firmly believe that could be possible because I think Roy is fighting almost as good or if not better than he has in the past, meaning he's blending striking and grappling. So I think he can get there. And again, I've seen him put in the work. He doesn't look like a 40-year-old to me. He's a professional heavyweight, man, and he will be back.
Yeah, I agree. A couple points there, but I guess the main point you were making was, yeah, as far as the scoring goes and the crowd booing, like I was like you, George. I was on Roy as well, going into it, but I don't feel that he did enough on the ground either. I don't feel that there was enough damage. There wasn't a close enough submission catch. And ultimately, that's what you have to score. Advancing is all good. You want to see guard passing. I certainly award that in my own mental scoring. But at the end of the day, who came close to the end of the fight? And I think, like you said, you were right, man. Mitrione came out ready to shoot the lights out. And even though, it kind of got worrisome where it went from Mitrione looked like he was going to just run away from it from the beginning to like, oh, what's going on here? He's getting taken down. Oh, no. Which made for a more entertaining fight, of course, but yeah, ultimately Roy just didn't do enough for me. As somebody who picked and was backing Roy, even threw a couple ducats on him. I still wasn't upset with the decision.
Yeah, and so what happened was, now the third round was a convincing Roy Nelson round.
Yes,
that's for sure. And so think about rounds that ended with Roy Nelson on top, and then a convincing third round, which could have been in 10-8, and I believe one judge may have given that. You could see why the boos were. It was like, again, what have you done for me lately? Mitrione's on the ground, just unable to really stop Roy from doing what he wants, especially in that third round.
Yeah.
I think that's why the boos came down.
Always.
I always think of those 15,000 or 10,000 or 5,000 out of there. Let's just pick 10. It's a round number.
All right.
Of those, how many are hardcore fans and how many are casual fans?
That is an interesting question because I feel like as somebody who's into the sport and I feel like it's more a disproportionate amount of casuals because especially whether I'm going like Tough Enough to support some friends out here or to the bigger shows, it's like that same audience of kick his ass, Seabass. Like that guy must get a nickel every time he says that because that guy is always showing up to fights.
Right.
He's always saying kick his ass, Seabass.
But even if it was, I was thinking, what if there's 2,000 hardcores and 8,000 casuals? But even if it was the other way, 2,000 casuals over 8,000 knowledgeable fans who are sitting there keeping their mouths shut, just clapping for the winner, respect to the loser, whatever. Those 2,000 people can still be pretty loud. You know what I mean? And maybe even some hardcores were thinking, oh, there's gonna be a knockout, and they didn't get it. Whatever, But those boos were pretty loud.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't telling of the fight that I saw. If they had called Roy's name, I wouldn't have a problem with it either because, again, of him ending rounds strongly. But I just had a feeling it wasn't going to be enough because Mitrione was so precise with his strikes. He looked really good. He fought off a couple takedown attempts as well. And so, therefore, I agree with the decision. And I also backed Roy on both sides, staff picks and money-wise. Let's jump to the other main event because we're going to take an early commercial. The commercial breaks are a little bit different today, but we're still going to have plenty of guests coming your way, including Matt Mitrione, the winner at Bellator 194 in that main event versus Roy Nelson. We'll also talk to James Vick, a winner at last night's UFC Austin card or UFC Fight Night 126, whatever you want to call it. He defeated Francisco Trinaldo. And we'll also talk to Ben Fowlkes from USA Today Sports MMAjunkies editorial staff. So, in the main event at UFC Austin yesterday, we had Cowboy Cerrone defeating Yancy Medeiros. Very exciting fight. He finished him in the second round, and I don't think you can really pick that fight apart. I mean, it was a fun fight, and we had a finish, and much respect all the way around. Some smiles everywhere, some grandmas getting hugged, and that on top of a nice co-main event that had a finish as well. I mean, I don't think he could have walked out of the Frank Irwin Arena, whatever it's called, with any kind of a frown on your face. That was a great night of fights.
Yeah, I was having this discussion earlier with old Matt from the Sports Book, where I was saying the same thing. It was a really solid night going into it, even if you're not going to hold it to such a high standard that we tend to do a little too much as far as we need names on everything, even these fight night cards. I mean, holding that criticism aside, I still think it was a good fight going in, a good fight night going in, and even better one going out for those reasons you just said. And I think it's important for us to kind of. I'm glad you brought it up because I think it's important for us to kind of recognize it because I don't know if you guys you're feeling this way, George, or any of the listeners, but I almost feel like I had to remind myself that because it feels like we're just we had Titan and all these like Bellator, all boxing. We had so much this weekend.
Yeah.
We're turning around. We've got UFC on Fox this weekend, and then we've got the big pay-per-view right in our backyard, at least here for us here in Vegas for UFC 222. It's hard. I almost get more mad when we do get these good cards. Like what was it? Was it Norfolk that had Pettis and see? I'm struggling to remember even which card which
Pettis
guy.
And Poirier.
But yeah, another great fight night card where going in you had all these great classic fight night action names like Matt Brown and stuff on paper, Diego Sanchez heading in. We get it going out, but even these cards don't get as much attention that maybe I or you feel maybe they deserve because we're already on to the next. But yeah, this was by all defenses a solid card. I think you could not be happy with it.
Yeah, I mean you can sit here and say what you can do is maybe pick the fight apart and make some question. I mean I think Yancey's joking. Wow, where was Mario when I needed him? Meaning he wanted a little bit more of a leash, before the stoppage came in. I also thought that there was one other fight that I made a point about that too.
Well, was it the officiating? Because that was a big theme. I will say that is the one negative theme I think we can say because there's a couple matchups. I'm just trying to maybe spark your memory here where the officials involved themselves that I feel many others on Twitter and media as well felt that the officiating they involved themselves a little too much in some of these matchups. We saw real key momentum swings in I believe one of the female
fights.
Those
nuts were pretty direct
and then,
too.
The Jared Gordon
right down the middle. You know
twice.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like. It was like an extra point. It was like, I mean, okay, what'd you expect? It's right down the middle. It's an extra point, in between the middle of the crossbars. And I think if Dan told him, hey, I already warned you in the back that that's an illegal blow, and you just had one right here. Here's my stern warning. Maybe a point comes off. On the other side, maybe Gordon takes a little bit more time off. I don't know, but it just seemed like boom, boom, nut shot. And then all of a sudden there's a finish, and you're like, oh, was that hand misplayed by Gordon on both occasions? Who knows?
Gordon didn't take the time he probably should have to recover it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, not to unpack that argument, but just to plant a seed for maybe someone might want to weigh in their opinion later. But what about this, George? They say, if the new rules, which I know that's a whole nother argument in itself, are we even what's the story with that front? But if the new rules say we're giving an automatic point deduction for a finger in the eye, well, why can't we do a rule where for a fence grab or a low blow, if there's two, that's an automatic. The second one is an automatic foul. It doesn't matter if it was unintentional. It doesn't even matter if both of them weren't like life-changing, where the guy's heaving up his guts. And then we've seen that, right? The guy's heaving after the low blow, and the fight still goes on. Even if it's two nut shots where they don't even equivalent to that bad, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because let's be honest, we've seen it before. It just takes one fence grab to change momentum. And the fence grab doesn't hurt a guy. A fence grab is not a poke in the eye that can forever damage a guy's vision that we were complaining about with last week's card in Australia. It's not a low blow that Jared Gordon suffered twice in the first minute of his fight. It's a fence grab, and we've seen it how many times. Yoel Romero still gets criticized for his fence grab against Jacare Souza. So again, if we're going to tighten up the screws, shouldn't we tighten up the screws everywhere, especially on the areas that keep bringing themselves up every card that we're on,
I would like to have seen that, man. All right, we'll talk more about that when we come back. We're going to take an early break. You're listening to MMAjunkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close, and we'll be right back.
They taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
And this is MMA Junkie Radio. Get the radio channel numbers for NBA, NHL, and college basketball games sent directly to your smart device. Go to SiriusXM.com/sportsnow, then click Add to Calendar. You'll even get the links to listen directly on the SiriusXM app. All right, a few more results here, and then we'll get going with some phone calls. Our guests come in the second hour, by the way. Ben Fowlkes, followed by Matt Mitrione, followed by James Vick. So this first hour is wide open to call in. But over at Bellator 194, on Friday night, we had the main event where Matt Mitrione defeated Roy Nelson via majority decision, 28-28. As I mentioned before, one judge gave a 10-8 round to Roy Nelson, and the others just gave him a 10-9, and they had him losing the first two. So Matt got two 29-28s and a 28-28. Patricky Frady. Oh, and by the way, you know that if another judge had given him a 10-8, they would have had to do a fourth round?
Yeah, that's right.
That would have been interesting because I think Roy definitely had momentum, going into the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been interesting to see how that played out. But it didn't happen, so that's that.
Mm-hmm.
Patricky Frady blasted Derek Campos in the first round. I didn't expect that. I knew it was a possibility, but, he kind of just made it look easy. Like, he was just the other Pitbull brother. You remember that?
Yeah.
Remember Patricio became a world champion, and you just always felt like, well, one's better than the other one, and that's that, and clearly better than the other one. But the other one's actually not doing so bad, man. I got to tip my hat to him. He probably earned a title shot. He's asking for it, and first things first, Brett Primus needs to defend against Michael Chandler, and should Chandler win it and they have a classic, Bellator may do the rubber match sooner than later. But if they don't, then I got to believe Frady's next. Heather Hardy defeated Anna Hulatan, unanimous decision there, 230-27s and a 29-28. Vadim Nemkov defeated Liam McGarry, TKO in the third round. Taiwan Claxton defeated Jose Perez in round 2 via TKO strikes. All right, moving over to Sunday night's card in Austin, Texas. Cowboy Cerrone defeated Yancy Medeiros, TKO punches. First round. Sorry, I think I said in the second round earlier, but it was in the first round. It was close to the end there, and so this was a welterweight matchup. And our question will revolve around Donald Cerrone and where his future should be. It's on Twitter. It was on Twitter. MMA Junkie does this every morning, where we ask you a question in regards to something relevant going on, and today's will have to do with old Cowboy, who's definitely open to both staying at welterweight and competing at lightweight, where he did most of his work in his career, and he tied Michael Bisping and GSP for most wins at 20. So, hats off to Cowboy Cerrone. That's what happens, man, when you're an active fighter. Things like that can happen. Derek Lewis defeated Marcin Tybura, third round stoppage, KO punches. Tybura fought a lot better than many expected. Well, hell, I guess he was the favorite, so this wasn't too much of a reach. And he's big guy, but light on his feet, and on the ground, he was definitely winning the fight there against Derek Lewis. And one would have thought that the way Lewis, of the two, Marcin Tybura seemed fresher, that Lewis may lose in his home state. But, man, when he throws, he just throws. And then he had an epic post-fight speech. Right about now, he should be going deep somewhere in Houston, Texas. Yeah, he is. James Vick defeated Francisco Trinaldo. Unanimous decision there, 29-28 across the board. Trinaldo did not just lay over. He did not just get walked through. He had some moments. In fact, he had a guillotine in the first round that looked like might be giving Vick some trouble, but we'll ask Vick more about that. In the other rounds, he just kind of wouldn't go away, but Vick really, really utilized all of his 6'3" frame and the 6-inch advantage he had in the reach. Curtis Millendor, what a debut, man. What about the past 30 days for that guy? He steamrolls out in LFA in late January, and then he comes back, debuts in Austin, Texas versus Thiago Alves, got a second round KO there. A knee/upper shin that just caught Thiago Alves, and that was probably like the 20th really significant strike that Thiago Alves absorbed, but that was the game ender there. Brandon Davis and Stephen Patterson, who shared fight of the night, they went the whole 15 minutes. It was domination, but Stephen Patterson would not go away. He had a couple moments where he maybe threatened a little bit on the ground, but it just looked like Brandon Davis was a bigger guy and a little bit more talented guy. Peterson matched him, though, in the toughness category. Sage Northcutt, he defeated Thibault Gouti from France. Hopefully I didn't butcher his name too bad. Via an unanimous decision there, 29-28, but that one definitely could have been scored another way. Some little bit of booing going on, but because he was a home state guy, he wasn't as significant as the boos that rained down in Uncasville towards Matt Mitrione on behalf of Roy Nelson. Diego Ferreira defeated Jared Gordon. Jeff Neal defeated Brian Camozzi. Submission there. Ferreira got the knockout. Roberto Sanchez defeated Joby Sanchez. Submission. Luchi Pidolova defeated Sarah Moraz. 29-28, 29-28, and 29-27. And them chicks went at it pretty good, man. Alex Morano defeated Josh Berkman, first round guillotine. And Oscar Piechota defeated Tim Williams, TKO punches, first round as well there. Undefeated Piechota is out of Poland. So what jumps out of you, Dan Tom? What do you want to get right into right away?
A lot of those things. So let me just get to the things that I know we probably won't get into with our guests, with the popular fights. We'll probably be getting into some of the fights that your old boy was wrong about here. So let me just say real quick, thank you guys for the shouts in the Bellator article. I did a little different article about the main card, with a little different structure than I do for the normal breakdowns. And in it, if I can't but my chest, being the only junkie staff maker to take Vadim Nemkov, I didn't just take him, but I titled in that article, "A Dark Horse Approaches at Light Heavyweight," was the title of that section. And I like to think that was proven right, because from the Twitter chat, it seemed like everybody was really excited. And the reason why I said that is because it really doesn't take much to become a prospect, whether you're talking about light heavyweight in Bellator, heavyweight in Bellator, or light heavyweight or heavyweight in UFC. Those divisions need a lot. So I was really excited to see a young, combat sambo champion guy that can do it on the ground, that can do it on the feet, just injecting new life into that division.
Kicks too.
Oh, brutal. And it's funny because you go back and watch his older footage, he's usually boxing guys up, but he's got really, really well-schooled boxing, right? And then now, he's just showing Edson Barboza level leg kicks and just damaging guys, and that was brutal, man. So I wanted to give him love, and then another more Eastern Europe love. Piechota, you kind of finished it off there, but Jared Gordon, I'm sure we can get into that later, and I don't want to take anything away from Carlos Diego Fajedas. It's always nice to see a guy come back after 2 years, but that fight kind of went down crash and burn as far as parlay pieces. But another guy I was high on that didn't crash and burn was the guy you just mentioned at the end there, Oscar Piechota. Real talented. He's a black belt under Robert Drysdale, so he's been out here a bit. He's a well-traveled guy, even though he's from Poland. And now he's putting it together on the feet. I mean, he's only been getting knockouts in his last couple fights. He just started off as a grappler, but now he's on the big stage getting these finishes. So I'm real excited to see what he brings to 185.
Yeah, definitely. And I am excited about Nemkov as well. Good for Bellator to scoop him up. He really, really taxed McGeary's legs, man. I mean, really, really bad.
Dude, that was hard to watch at the third round because you just knew he was in pain. He was just toughing it out. The tough dude he is, McGeary, but
it was nice for the referee to just step in there. I think the end was the end.
Yes.
All right, let's take some calls, and then we'll start revisiting different portions of both fight cards because lots went down this past weekend. Marco from Waco, you're up. What's up, man?
Marco from Waco, ¿qué pasa, dude?
¿Qué pasa?
Marco.
No. Hey, dude, freaking Mitrione is in trouble, man. If Roy Nelson was taking him down that easy, in front of him he got Ryan Bader, Kim Mo, Chael Sonnen, Frank Mir. I'm discounting Fedor because I've seen Frank Mir is doing Fedor. So you got 4 grapplers in front of him, and he could not stop a takedown, man. I don't like his chances, dude. He should not be the number 1 seed anymore. I'm putting my money on Bader anyway.
Okay, all right. What's next?
And coming out this weekend, I told you the Black Beast was going to Black Beast, man.
Oh, you know what? I had your parlay down on the other sheet. How did it do? Tell me.
I went 3-1, I think.
It was a 5-team.
A little. Yeah, 3-2.
3-2.
3-2 I went.
Did you go to the fights? Waco's not too far from Austin, right?
No, I couldn't, man. I couldn't because babysitter and stuff, so it's kind of sucky on a Sunday. I couldn't plan it out.
You were nailing the babysitter? What happened? How does the babysitter come into play?
It's a guilty laugh right there, George. You got him.
I don't understand. Like, what's the deal here?
We couldn't get a babysitter.
Oh, okay, all right, man. Look, I'll tell you this about what your point with Mitrione. Well taken, but you know, Roy's also a bigger cat. You know, all those other guys probably weigh fight time around 220, maybe 225. Roy's a solid 250, 255. Now, those other guys are well more accomplished wrestlers than Roy Nelson. So you know, you might be right, but at the same time, if they were to take some of the hits Roy Nelson took, would they have been left standing, you know, and ready to make those takedowns? That's going to be the fun part. But I understand exactly what you're saying, my man. Matt definitely just, I mean, that deficiency is so glaring when he's on the ground. I mean, you have money on him, especially. You're like, oh God, how's this going to go? You just can't wait for him to stand. But when he's standing, ooh man, that's a thing of beauty. He's really become a solid striker.
Don't prove me wrong. And Curtis, man, I got to keep an eye on this guy because what he showed against Thiago Alves, holy shit. Peace out, dude.
All right, see ya.
Dude, Melender looked good, man.
He did.
And that was the thing.
I didn't think he could do that. Like, I thought he was going to maybe, you know, with 30 days notice, Thiago Alves, you see him on the opposite side, regardless of it's not UFC 100 Thiago Alves, you still got to believe, hey, this guy's been around with the American top team. He steamrolled some good fighters. You know, I mean, okay, Thiago Alves in the second round looked a lot better than the Thiago Alves in the first round.
And that was after he got rocked and almost put out of there, too.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I thought that's how he was going to come at him. But he, you know, he couldn't get the leg kicks going. Linder was just saying, whoop, you know, the leg's not there for you to kick. I thought he was going to maybe check him. The announcers were teasing us. He's got something up his sleeve. No, he was just going to not have his leg there when Thiago was throwing. But basically, he established his range so early with the jabs, with the 1-2s, with the kicks, that he probably set Thiago Alves back about 6 inches to a foot. And therefore, even when he was kicking, there wasn't much to be there just because the other guy used his range so well. I mean, that was just his defense. I'm just not going to have my leg there when you kick. But by then, so much damage had been done. He tried to do a walk-off. It didn't work out.
Cut it back.
Yeah, and so I thought, I wonder if this – I was thinking Shane Carwin, you know, like I wonder if he's got an adrenaline dump and he's going to be strong. But he stayed composed. And like I said, for being a UFC debutee, he got the job done very impressively. And then how about the call-outs, too?
Oh, it was
just
great.
Like Izzy the week before, you know, just one division lower.
Yeah, man. He I think he hit pretty much all the check marks, and it's crazy because it's a real, you know, changing the guard. Not just for guys like you and me who've watched Thiago's career, but he was the dude that was icing guys with the knees himself, Carl Parisian. And what was more impressive about that is, you know how far you have to go back to find a stoppage from Thiago Alves. Aside from that doctor stoppage against Compton and Campman, you have to go back 12 years to a triangle choke to find the last time somebody was able to stop Thiago Alves in some way.
Wow.
So I fell into the analyst trap here with that line being so low for such a proven guy on paper. You know, I just, you know, as much I've been a big fan of Melender, you know, having him on the show, I thought maybe, you know, this might be that classic too much too soon. You know, it was a quick turnaround for Melender. I'm like, how much time has he gotten really getting better? We've seen this a lot where even undefeated prospects, right? They'll kind of maybe have to take that short notice call and they'll take their first L in their debut. And it's not the end of the world. It's a learning experience. We see him come back. And I thought that's what it was going to be here. And I'm glad you said that because you were someone actually backed Melender in your pick, but even you said, rightfully so, it was so surprising because if you go back and watch Melender's footage, you really just see him turn a corner in this fight, but he does it in his UFC debut against a veteran. Like, that alone is just the most impressive part of that whole equation for me.
Yeah, it's almost like you could say, it's almost like you could interview him off of a second win and say, hey, in that first win, you blew your load, but in this next fight, you stayed composed. Like, you know, somebody that graduated and matured, but yet he did it all in one fight. He did it all from one round to the next. When he was out there, the face didn't look like he was panicked at all. He was just like, okay, we'll get the job done. It should have been done in the first, but, you know, here it comes. And then the second walk-off, I guess, kind of worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you got to be careful with those because it could have come back to bite him, in the end.
That's true. That's true.
All right, let's talk to Brian in Boston. What's up, Brian?
Hey, boys. Marco kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but a couple things I want to touch on. The Thiago Alves, the one thing that jumped out at me at the start of the fight, they put up his age, and he's 34. And I'm like, 34? Didn't this guy appear in, like, UFC 5 or UFC 6? He's only 34 years old.
Yeah.
You think he'd be, like, 90 by now.
I remember seeing him at UFC 78 in
Gonzaga Couture.
In Atlantic City.
No, that's not Gonzaga Couture.
Gonzaga Couture.
That was 79, I'm sorry.
79?
Yeah, sorry. 78.
And 80 was BJ and Joe Stevenson.
Yep.
So, anyway, I don't know how far we can bring him back. Well, I guess I could look it up. Fuck, stop being lazy, George. But yeah, he has been around, man. Not as far as you're saying, but I'm sure you were just joking.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
actually, kind of not joking because Brian. Sorry, real quick, Brian. I think he debuted on like UFC Fight Night 5 or 6. So you're kind of right there in a way.
All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's interesting. So Mitrione. So Marco mentioned his lack of wrestling defense, and if I'm not mistaken, you guys sort of dismissed that, going forward as maybe not being a big deal. I don't really chastise a guy a whole lot for, not being able to stop the takedown. What concerns me is he made almost zero effort to get back up. I didn't see a lot of closed guard. I like his size, I like his striking, but when you're dealing with those wrestlers, going forward, depending how the tournament shakes out and if there's alternates or not, you're looking at Son and Bader and King Mo. And, this is Meathead's 18th fight. I think he's 13-5. What kind of training is he doing to get back up? I didn't see anything that made me feel he can get back up.
Well, we'll plan on asking him for sure. But Roy Nelson is a black belt on the ground. It's just not a big belly that's laying on you. He knows what he's doing. He's a big guy. He's a black belt under Renzo Gracie. But you're right. I mean, we do plan on asking him that because it is pretty. It's one of those situations where if you want Mitrione to win, or you bet Mitrione to win, or you need Mitrione to win, or whatever, and he goes to the ground, you get that feeling like, oh my God, my guy's gonna get outclassed right now, and it shouldn't be for a guy that's as athletic as he is, and as experienced as he is. You would feel like there would have been a little bit more progression. Now, we didn't dismiss it. I mean, Dan, in fact, didn't even chime in. It was more me. I just said, hey, you remember there's about a 30-pound difference between the guys that Marco named that are coming up versus Roy. And I also gave him the fact that they are accomplished wrestlers, whereas, more credentialed than Roy. So I'll give him that. And at the same time, Roy's got a chin, and he took a lot of shots to be able to get into the position to take down Matt Mitrione. And can those other guys take that? I mean, Sonnen fought at 85 for a majority of his career. He's fought his fair share of fights at 205, and the other guys for sure at 205. They've all been KO'd, so they also so there's reasons to think that Mitrione might have enough to get by, but at the same time may be challenged.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that.
Glaring weakness for somebody in their 18th fight. That's glaring. So I would like to know what he's doing about it. All day they should just have someone lay on him and have him get up, because it's just. I didn't even see the effort. I was just, if you're making an effort and you fail, I get it. But yeah, I didn't see shit.
Yeah, I was definitely planning on asking him, Brian. I actually shared a ground coach at one time with Matt and witnessed him at many times having to do wall wrestling and get up drills, and that was a long time ago through Extreme Couture. But yeah, I definitely was planning on asking him if he still has touch with those same coaches or what he's doing with that, because yeah, it is a definite question, and yeah, I don't think George is dismissing it either. As far as my opinion goes, people following me on Twitter know I tweeted out something that it was kind of joking, but caught wind, and I essentially just tweeted out a picture of Ryan Bader doing his naked belt dance that we talked about on Friday's show for whatever that ceremony for the Arizona State, and I took that and I put breaking next favorite to win the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix, because I've said on this show before that Bader is my dark horse pick to win that, and I've said that here before. So I don't find it crazy at all that after people seeing Mitrione struggle to defend takedowns, that people are are going to think that. And I say that at the risk of we're going to be interviewing him later. But no, we're definitely going to ask him that, Brian.
Cool. Have a good day, guys.
All right, see ya. One more. Showtime from Tennessee. What's up, Showtime? It's your time.
What's going on, fellas?
Hey, Showtime. What's up, dude?
Nothing much. Hey, I had made a post in a little Facebook group chat about watch Roy bitch about winning this fight when Roy got pieced up in the first round. He got a takedown, but he didn't do anything with it. Then the second round, I had media. Roy won, but Roy didn't sell out, man. Roy didn't sell out and go, just basically give it all you got to stop that fight. That was his only way of winning that fight. And I said, now watch Roy be mad with his decision, act like he won when it's over with. Sure enough, when the fight was over with, Roy act like, he was pissed like he thought he won. I want to see him sell out. Just go for broke, man. Because at one point, who was the guy? Was that Dan Murphy guy? Who was in there during that fight?
Oh, that's a good point.
I think it was.
I'm trying to think, but it was like he was telling Mitrione like, you got to show me something, almost like, he was really paying real close attention, and I just wanted to see him sell out, man, and he didn't sell out.
Yeah, I remember that. There was a sequence where Roy, I think, had crucifixed him, or at least kind of done a version of pinning the arm, and Mitrione did just enough at the right time to either get his hand up and deflect a punch or two, or just shift or move, and it bought him those split seconds, and it kept going, and then he was out of trouble. But yeah, Roy was very close to just being in a dominant position where the opponent is not intelligently defending themselves. They're not hurt. They're just not intelligently defending themselves. And I thought it was good communication between the referee and Mitrione, and just in the nick of time.
And to be fair, the criticisms for Mitrione and to the ladies' fights, but that was a theme that we saw, right? People getting taken down near the fence and not being able to get back up was a theme that we saw, which is kind of strange because we hear about commentators ad nauseum, talking about, well, back in the day they used to pin people in the cage and beat them, and now they use the cage to stand up. Like, this is pretty common knowledge. But as you can see, whether it's a female fight of more inexperienced, let's just say, or more experienced heavyweights, like, these problems persist. So as much as that might sound like a criticism, I say that in spirit of a defense for those guys. But yeah, no, those are accurate observations.
It was Mergliata, by the way.
Okay.
And I thought his positioning was fine, and although he probably could have stopped it and hid behind that, hey, he wasn't intelligently defending himself. I think he made the right call, because the damage wasn't enough for him to enact that. You know what I mean? Yes. So I was okay with it. There was something else I was going to say too. Oh, Chael Sonnen made a good point. Him and Mike Goldberg were working the broadcast. Big John McCarthy was with Jay Glazer, and they were hosts, and so but calling the fights cage side were Chael Sonnen and Mike Goldberg. Chael Sonnen said something that was very interesting. It was along the lines of, Roy's an experienced fighter, and Roy's an intelligent fighter. It's just that sometimes his fight IQ during the fight doesn't match that. And I think what he was saying was, look, Roy is in these dominant positions, all right, and Chael's going to give his scorecard. The rest of us are going to, we have 1 minute to decide, is it 10-9 this way or what's happening or whatever. But Roy has to give us that info. You know what I mean? And for Roy, as experienced as he is, and knowing what can happen in a mixed martial arts fight, he should have known that being in that position, he should have had more damaging blows raining his way, or more of an advancement towards Mitrione's lack of submission defense. But there were too many times of, I guess you could call it a stall. But if you ask Roy, I'm sure he would tell you, well, this is happening. I'm trying to control another big human being. Mm-hmm. It's just that, well, okay, we get that. But while that's happening, scoring isn't being done.
Yeah.
So Chael was kind of explaining it. He was kind of giving it in similar terms like that. And kind of like, this could come back to bite him. And sure enough, I think that's what happened.
It did. And to add to that,
I thought Chael did a really good job of explaining that.
Me too. To add to that, I too thought Chael did a really good job of explaining that, and also being honest with what we were seeing without, crapping on the promotion or the fighters, but also being honest and kind of calling what we were seeing, like, hey, you know, with the fight IQ comment, like you said, he worded it very well, where it's not, you know, it's not, no one's trying to insult these guys, but you got to convey it, and particularly with the crucifix, like, part of me, you know, I'm like, okay, Roy needs more damage to seal this round, or to get a 10-8 on the round, depending on what round we're talking about of the fight. He knows this, like kind of like what Chaels was saying, but part of me was giving a pass. I'm like, you know what? I've seen Mitrione explode in the practice rooms. We all kind of know he's an explosive guy. Maybe if he leans up, you know, to posture to get more umph on his strike, that space that he creates can let the guy out. That's what we see. That's why guys play so conservatively. But let's fast forward it to Sunday, yesterday, a perfect example of putting a stamp in around. We'll go to a female fight. We're going to drop down about 100 pounds and go to a female division, guys, for the same exact scenario. And instead of the arguable last minute and a half that Roy kept taking the fight down, this girl only did it in about 10 seconds and arguably could have stole the first round. That was Lucy Pudilova versus Sarah Moras. And if you remember the fight, Sarah Moras almost got her an armbar, was winning the round, and probably should have won the round due to dominant position. Not that it ended up mattering because she lost the next two. But she almost gets the armbar, this and that. Pudilova is clearly down. They get back up to the feet off of a separation that probably shouldn't have happened. This was one I was alluding to earlier as far as officials getting maybe too involved. The separation probably shouldn't have happened, and after the ref involved himself, the first thing that happens off the break, Pudilova hits Moras and drops her, right? Pudilova follows Moras to the ground. The round is closing. We now have 10 seconds, but she generates this little framey, little skinny, you know, female fighter. Not saying that as a negative, but let's just to punctuate the point here, just starts wailing with just powerful ground and pound, knowing that she has to punctuate this round, whether she can get her out. And even though I kind of retracted giving her the round, I could have seen, and I believe one of the judges might have actually gave her that round. And again, this is less of a time frame to work with than what Roy had for each 3 of the rounds, and it's a smaller female. So I can see where the criticism, I'm not trying to crap on, believe me, the last thing I'm trying to do is crap on a professional fighter, much less a heavyweight. But what I am saying is I could see where that criticism of what Chael was saying and what others were saying on Twitter or screaming at their TVs, why aren't you throwing more? You need to punctuate this. Just for an example.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go, Showtime.
Hey, let me make one more point, man. I love Anna, man, but her and Heather Hardy, man, why these girls, I want to see more stand-up, more boxing instead of more, you know, them trying to grapple. And Heather would have threw hands, but that was basically Anna with the stalemate of, the grappling, man. And that made for a boring fight. I thought that would be a good fight of 2 women throwing hands, man, and it ended up being a boring fight.
All right, buddy. All right, thank you very much for calling in. We'll discuss that when we come back. I know that fight took a lot of heat on social media, as well as in the arena itself. So we'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. It's Monday, February 19th. And for all of you, that are enjoying the holiday, I hope you barbecue, hang out with your families, and be safe out there. It's President's Day. Stay close. We'll be right back.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
It's the Impossible Springsteen ticket, and we're giving them away to SiriusXM subscribers. SiriusXM's E Street Radio is filling all the seats for the March 14th performance of Springsteen on Broadway. Grand prize winners will get airfare, hotel, and tickets to this exclusive show. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/Springsteen. No additional purchase is necessary. All right, so on the way out, Showtime's question was regarding Heather Hardy and Anna Hulaton. I was expecting more hands for sure. And I don't want to wait till the boxing match to see more hands. I wanted to see them now with 4-ounce gloves, to be honest. And as it is, I'm not the biggest WMMA fan to begin with, much less a women's boxing fan, to be honest. But Heather, I didn't believe was going to be any threat to take the fight to the ground, other than whatever experience she's accumulated. But it seemed like both of them had built it up where, like, hey, let's throw hands. Let's put on a show. And that didn't happen when they would just clinch up. They would be up against the fence. And it was wall install. Nothing much was happening other than an occasional knee, and maybe them shifting, for underhooks or whatever. So, once the fans get going, it's tough. It's tough to sway them back, and I thought Anna would maybe possibly throw more kicks if she didn't want to box. But, that also lost her the last fight, was throwing more kicks and not throwing the hands. When Anna Hulaton stands there and just shadow boxes, it's a thing of beauty, man. It's just like when any boxer does it, and she just really knows how to throw her hands. She just hasn't been able to do that in a Bellator cage, or any cage, really, for that matter. And it's unfortunate because it's such a strength of hers. She was fighting someone else who had that as well, and but for whatever reason they elected not to, and that's that. I don't know what's neither female I believe is going to be a world champion in the flyweight division at Bellator. Perhaps because of their star power, they can just continue to fight, but this one's going to be tough to come back from. Now let's hope their boxing match can put them back in the race as far as the popularity with MMA fans. But from what I saw, the media and the fans were relentless. Man.
Yeah,
that's going to be a tough one to come back from.
Yeah, I will say, because again, I always pride myself on being honest, especially the spot as an analyst. You kind of have to be in media, journalist, all these different delineations George talks about all the time. But there's these written to unwritten rules and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I always like to try to think that I'm an honest guy and whatnot, and yeah, it was tough. But what I will say, though, being honest, I do feel that a lot of the criticism should be tempered in the sense of at least toward the ladies. I feel it was unfair. I think you saw a lot of blaming, a lot of it was blaming Hardy when Hardy was just playing defense, and not that you should be blaming Hulaton. You shouldn't be blaming either of them, but I was seeing a lot of the blame game, which was the point of it. And if anything, let's just keep in mind that, and I'm not saying you should now point to the promotion, not the fighters, but let's just keep in mind that this was a promotional choice to put this on, to put it on the main card, and this and that, and these girls, for all the experience they have, MMA is a different animal. I explained it in my Mayweather and McGregor article last week with all this nonsensical talk. Like, it's a complete different sport going both ways, and we're seeing that with these two, where, like George said, you see Anna throw her hands beautifully, and it just doesn't always translate to that. So I think we have to remember that and kind of go easy on them.
All right, some facts going out here. It's the end of the hour. We'll come back with Ben Fowlkes. Attendance, 10,500 at the Frank Irwin Center in Austin, Texas. Total gate was 794,350. The bonuses went to Brandon Davis and Steven Peterson for Fight of the Night. Performance of the Night went to Derek Lewis and Curtis Millender. Hard to disagree with any of those. Sanchez had a nice submission. I mean, he was, it took him a while, but he got it over Joby Sanchez. Alex Morano got one over Berkman. Berkman's usually the one throwing guillotines up on people. Jeff Neal got a submission, a bulldog choke. And I guess Cerrone maybe could have said, well, what about mine? But I think Lewis and Millender were the right ones. Anyway, all right, we're going to take a quick break here. It's the top of the hour. We'll come back with Ben Fowlkes, one of the finest writers in the sport of mixed martial arts. Just follow him on Twitter at Ben Fowlkes MMA. We'll be right back. Stay close.
They say the drop can't flow, but we've been known to do the impossible like Broadway Joe. So sleep if you want, like who will help you get your Z's true. But here's the real scoop. I'm all that and then some. Shot Dr. Handsome, bust a nut inside your eye to show you where I come from. I'm vexed, fuming. I've had it up to here. My days of paying dues are over. Acknowledge me is in there. Yeah. Head for the border, go get a taco. I see wreck it from the jump street, clean from the get-go. Sit back, relax, and let yourself go. Don't sweat what you heard, but act like you know. Yes, yes, y'all. Yes, y'all. Who got the vibe? It's the tribe, y'all. Tribe, y'all. Live, y'all. Live, y'all. Inside, outside, come around. Who's that? Brown. Some may I say, call me Charlie. The word is the herb, and I'm deep like Bob Marley. Lay back on the payback, evolve, rotate the gates. Contact. Can I get a hit? Hit. Boom, bit with a brother named Tip, and we're ready to flip. East Coast stomping, ripping and romping. New York, North, Kakalaka, and Compton. Check it out. The loops for the troops, more bounds to the ounce. And wow, how now, brow cow. We're ill till the skill gets down for the flex. Next is the textbook old to the new, but the rest are doo-doo.
All right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. I'm sure Ben Fowlkes would even agree we had to get to the bow wow 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 without wow wow part before we could start the second hour of the show and bring him in. You can follow him on Twitter at Ben Fowlkes MMA. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Ben? How you doing?
Nothing much. I forgot for a while that I was on hold to do a radio interview. I was just enjoying listening to some Tribe Called Quest.
Hey, man, you know we're going to reach 25 degrees here in Vegas, and I'm tripping over this because I'm kind of a sissy. And I'm just wondering, where do you guys up in Montana start to call each other or nudge each other and go, holy cow, we're going to reach, what's your number?
Single digits.
Single digits.
When you get down into the single digits, yeah. Or that the wind chill can also mess with you because, you know, that just is a whole different ball game. But like this morning, went out to buy a coffee, tried to roll my window down at the little coffee cart, and it just wouldn't go anywhere because it was just frozen. And I was like, okay, that's when you know it's serious.
Yeah. Did you see that, Dan? 25 on Tuesday. Tomorrow.
Dude, I saw something Ben posted on Twitter. Didn't even look real.
32 in my Vegas 8 years or so. And I just remember going, oh, that's freezing. I wonder if the pool's going to freeze. But 25 will eclipse that by 7 degrees. What were you saying?
Yeah, no. I'm kind of just in disbelief of the weather in general. I think I saw Ben post something on his Twitter the other day of what it's like in his neck of the woods, you could say. And I didn't want to complain about weather all of a sudden.
By the way, did you guys see Cowboy hitting mitts with his feet in snow? Every time I've packed a snowball, I almost feel like I'm getting frostbite. Like it's no joke if you just do it with your bare hands. You got to do it with gloves, right? And he's kickboxing out there, and I couldn't believe it.
That felt like something like a guy from UFC 1 would do in his promo video to intimidate the other guy.
Hey,
I did not expect that.
Paul Varlin's the polar bear. Would you do that, Ben?
I don't know why I would do that. I would think, why don't I just go inside? Why don't I do that?
That was crazy, yeah.
This is why I'm not a fighter, though. It's because I'll just think it through to the logical conclusion there and decide, you know what, no.
You like Sunday events, Ben? Kind of freed up your Saturday. I don't know if you're a Sunday guy, Sunday fun day guy, but do you enjoy these from time to time?
I don't. They mess with my recreational hockey league schedule, which is on Sundays. So that's my sole reason for disliking them.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
And at this point, I'm so used to working Saturday night that I don't even realize that, I just take it for granted that every Saturday night there's going to be a fight that I'm going to be working. And so when there's not one, it's like I don't even know what to do with myself. I'm so conditioned that way.
Take the wife out.
Yeah, she's conditioned to it too. We're going to think, okay, we got to get our fun in on Friday or something, or in the week, because Saturday, it's just like kind of mentally marked off the calendar.
Let's rewind a little bit more to Friday night. Mitrione versus Roy Nelson. Mitrione advances now in the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. What were your thoughts on that fight? Do you think they got it right? Roy Nelson with his double fingers obviously disagreed, but what'd you think?
Yeah, I think that's the right decision. I guess shouldn't be surprised at Roy Nelson's resiliency, because he took some pretty good shots there, especially early on in that fight. But it was hard for me to really understand how he thought that just kind of takedowns and control on the ground without a whole lot of action there was really going to win him that fight. I was surprised, honestly. I expected Mitrione to be kind of the favorite to win this whole thing, just when you look at the field, and for him to kind of squeak by somebody like Roy Nelson in the first round of it. I was a little bit surprised, but at this point, I feel like I'm still waiting for a good fight to come out of that tournament.
Yeah. When he was on his feet, he looked pretty damn good, Mitrione. He was hitting some unconventional punches that you don't see much. But yeah, Roy's got an incredible chin, durable. And of course, when he took it to the ground, Mitrione was just like, he fish out of water. So anyway, that set aside, do you now feel he's not the favorite going forward? We know Chael and him have advanced, and we still have Bader versus King Mo, and we also have Frank Mir versus Fedor Emelianenko. You're saying you don't believe Mitrione's now no longer in the pole position here?
No, I think he is, just because of how he matches up with pretty much everybody that you could see still left in at this point. I think that against guys like Bader and King Mo, his size will, I think, negate a little bit of some of his wrestling deficiencies, plus just his punching power. And if he can kind of stay calm and not just load up on everything, trying to win it with one big shot, I think that he beats a lot of those guys. I think maybe somebody like Chael Sonnen or Frank Mir, if he gets past Fedor, present some of the more interesting challenges for him in that. But I don't know. We're not yet to the point where we're really seeing the matchups get crazy. Like when we see true heavyweight against a true light heavyweight or middleweight even, that's when it's going to get real interesting. I feel like that's the part I'm waiting for. It feels like hard to imagine how they're going to get done with this tournament inside a year, just based on like the pace of it so far.
Yeah, good point. Ben Fowlkes, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He writes for MMA Junkie, and he also is the co-host of the Co-Main Event podcast, which drops every Tuesday on our front page. Check it out, subscribe. You'll really, really enjoy it. Him and his partner, Chad Dundas, have been doing this for a while now. And they're very, very much liked on the underground, man. If anybody ever asks about podcasts on the underground, the UG, whoo, man, the Co-Main Event slam dunks everybody. They really dig you over there, Ben. I don't know if you've ever seen that. But, all right, now let's move to Sunday night. When you first heard of Derek Lewis, whether it was just seeing an interview or watching him fight, could you have imagined he would be as fun of a fighter to cover as he's become? And I know he's got to be in your top 5. It seems like you get a kick out of the Black Beast, whether he's fighting or just active on social media.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple different things that I really like about Derek Lewis. One is that you can tell that he is basically an internet MMA nerd at heart. Like when he is standing there in his interview afterwards with Jimmy Smith, and he's like, I know you're new, so you don't really know how I do it over here. You're coming over from Bellator. And you're just like, thank you. Somebody getting on the mic there and acknowledging, Jimmy Smith coming over from Bellator. Like, you can tell he's just, like, reading the same stuff everybody else is and acknowledging that kind of same stuff. But then I also, there's so much about his game that is, like, the kind of fun that only heavyweights can give you, where he gets taken down and he's just kind of like, all right, I'm going to lay here for a little while, and then I'm going to decide that I'm going to get up, and then I'm going to do that. And, like, when it comes to, like, stopping a takedown, it's kind of like when Shaq would talk about his strategy with free throws. Like, he makes them when it counts. Same thing like with the takedowns. Like, okay, down late in the fight, you got to get the knockout. All right, now I'll really be serious about stopping the takedown and then just punch a guy in his face. And then, make an allusion to having sex with my wife afterwards. And it's how you're not going to like that. How are you not going to enjoy that as a fight fan?
Oh, that's what he meant by going deep. I thought he was going to go to the batting cages. Oh, okay.
No.
Well, actually, I think they were going to sit down. They were going to read some Kierkegaard together. And it was going to get deep. Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, if this was the sponsorship era, we think we know what sponsorships we could peg Derek Lewis for. I think he could do a couple companies some good spokesman work with his post-fight speeches there. But yeah, no, I also just kind of appreciate it. Reminded me there's this a grappler who would use triangle chokes to pass guard, and he had really messed up cauliflower ears because of it, because that was his guard pass. He would let guys get a triangle choke, and he would pass. And Derek Lewis almost has that about him, where he kind of will tripod and let guys fall forward. But I almost can't even pick against a guy like that. Yeah, shimmy shake. How do you pick against that, Ben? How do you pick against the shimmy shake?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of guys, I think they're too quick to take the bait kind of when it comes to going and taking the guy's back. Or, I mean, if you are going to take his back, then you have to know that that's going to be his strategy to begin with, and you have to stop him from tripoding, right? You have to just kind of try to flatten him out and keep him there. Because you get flattened out, especially with a heavyweight on your back. Even if you are a heavyweight yourself, it's hard to get back up into that tripod. You got to kind of stop that before it starts. But it's the same thing, like a lot of grapplers, and it was kind of like a paradigm shift back when Sakuraba used to do it and stuff. Not that, man, how did I end up comparing Derek Lewis to Sakuraba? But where it was just such a conventional wisdom, like, hey, if you have an opportunity to take somebody's back, you jump on it, you do it, and you're going to finish them there. And then with some people be like, all right, I will give you the opportunity just because I want you to take that bait. But you don't necessarily have to take it. And I think that when you see Derek Lewis look really bad is when somebody can keep him just kind of flat on his back, and when somebody can just kind of wear him out with that constant pressure. I think he still has to address that problem, because you're just not going to be able to decide, screw it, I'm getting up against absolutely everybody. But when he can do it, man, he's just so much fun.
Well, no, definitely. And one thing I did want to get your thoughts on, because that was a fight that was pretty much decided just from heavyweight MMA, because heavyweight MMA is going to heavyweight MMA. But Ben, I guess I wanted to ask you, there was some arguments of officiating maybe kind of involving itself in some of the fights maybe too much. Was it really as bad as Twitter was making it out to be, or is this kind of a case where we've had 3 or 4 cards with from the out of the cage officiating to the in cage officiating? We've had kind of questions throughout. What do you think it is? Is it fair criticisms that were coming in?
Well, I mean, some of those criticisms I think are more fair than others, but I mean, when we're talking about whether to stand up fighters or anything like that, then that's always going to be somewhat of a judgment call that you can't get too upset about, because whether you're letting them work and it feels like it's stalling out, or whether you feel like they're intervening too quickly, that's no matter what happens there, you're always going to find a way to come down on one side of the fence or the other. But when it comes to stuff like the fouls, that seems like a problem that we just refuse to address in this sport, where you get 2 free ones, it seems like. You had Ferreira go out there and you're going to get 2 free kicks to the groin in the first 2 minutes. And then after that, the referee's like, hey, seriously, please stop that. And then he goes and he finishes the fight a couple minutes later, and it's again, the same, it's become a joke with Chad Dennis's Dundasso martial art about why you should always cheat in MMA, but it really does almost always help you, because even if there are consequences, and we go out of our way in this sport not to levy any consequences on people for cheating, but even if they do, it's okay, take a point away. But if your cheating helps you get to a point where you're more likely to finish the fight, that point's not going to matter anyway. That seems like a kind of intractable problem that we're just refusing to acknowledge.
Ben, I wanted you to participate with us in our daily debate. We just been talking about some of the big topics that are out there, and today's MMA Junkie Radio poll question is, as it stands right now, should Donald Cerrone, who's now tied for most career UFC wins, be a UFC Hall of Famer? Now, 1,758 people already registered the votes. 91% went with yes, 9% went with no. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow. Well, I say yes, but I'm surprised that many yes vote. I mean, maybe it's just because he just won a fight last night, so everybody is kind of hyped up. But I would have expected there to be more people in the no camp just because he's never won a title. But I say yes. This, Danny Downs and I are right now going back and forth for our Trading Shots column that'll post later today. But the idea, I think, kind of the old way of thinking about it was hey, you got to be a champion at some point in order for people to really consider you a great fighter. But I also think that something has to be said for Donald Cerrone doing it the way he has for as long as he has, where he's fighting 4 or 5 times a year and winning most of them. He doesn't win them all, but if you're going to fight that often and fight in the style that he fights, you're not going to win them all. But his willingness to just kind of keep going out there, keep delivering over that long a time period, I think that does make him, Hall of Fame worthy fighter, or a great fighter. And that all-time wins record. I mean, how do you look at a guy with the, he's probably going to break the record. He tied it. He's got some more fights left in him. He's only 34. He's probably going to break that record, add to it a little bit. And how do you look at somebody with the all-time wins record and say, no, not a Hall of Fame fighter?
Yeah, you're right. He's tied with GSP and Michael Bisping. Bisping says he's only got one left. Who knows if we'll see GSP come back. Cerrone's only 34. I don't see him going anywhere. How about you, Dan?
I just think it comes down to narrative. I think BJ Penn and Randy Couture are a perfect example of this, where you can have all these multi-divisional titles and records, but you can also have a really kind of shoddy record on paper if we're focusing on the numbers. So I think the deciding factor there is the narrative, and I think the narrative of Cerrone is well-established and well-deserved to be in that Hall of Fame. Yeah,
he came close. He's never really become a world champion, but having the tied for most wins, more than likely will break it, having 18 bonuses, the frequency of fights, especially at now fighting at welterweight, doing it at lightweight as well. I think he will be in the UFC Hall of Fame. I think he's just too popular, regardless of whether he wins a title or not, to ever not be included. And as we've seen in the past, even though I think going forward the UFC is going to tighten things up, people who haven't won world titles are part of the UFC Hall of Fame. So I agree. I think I agree with 91%. It didn't shock me one bit. There you have it. There's today's daily debate. Now, Ben, before we close out, just overall your thoughts on Cerrone. He's talking about 165. I've always been a big fan of 165. You warming up to 165 and 175 and just shelving 170?
I don't know. I think that sometimes we assume that more weight classes is going to be, a fix for everything. But I am open to more kind of catch weight opportunities, especially with a guy like Donald Cerrone. If you seems like the UFC's kind of decided, all right, that he's not the guy we look at as fighting for a title anymore. Instead, they want to lately match him up against young guys who they think might fight for the title in the future to kind of get that name value to rub off. And, if you can figure out some fun fights for Donald Cerrone that kind of crossover divisions and the catch weight makes sense to everybody, I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't think that just the difference between 165 and 170 is going to be a world changer or anything. But I am also not going to get freaked out if you want to take Donald Cerrone against one of the bigger lightweights and have him meet somewhere in the middle.
He's one of the best in the business, folks. Follow him on Twitter at Ben Fowlkes MMA. Ben, thanks again for sharing your thoughts. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, we'll see you.
Easy.
All right, folks, we're going to take a break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close, and we'll be right back with one of the semifinalists and the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix, Matt Mitrione.
because they don't know where those people have been, and because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goes, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
All right, let's get right into it. Our next guest was a winner at Bellator 194. He defeated Roy Nelson via majority decision. He goes to 13-5 now. He's won 7 of his past 9, including 4 in a row. And of those past 7, 6 of them have been KO. In fact, of the 13 wins, 11 have been KO, which is an 85% KO percentage. I'm talking about Matt Mitrione. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Matt? How you doing?
What's up, beautiful people? How we doing today?
Doing good. How was the father-daughter dance? Did you make it?
Dude, it was great, man. Yeah, we made it, actually. I was a little bit sore, but it was a great experience. I had a horse-drawn carriage out there, photo booths, a bunch of other stuff. My daughter, I even told her, I was like, baby, if you don't want to get pictures taken with me because I have a black eye, I won't be upset. I understand. And she's like, Dad, I'm proud of you. And she grabbed my hand and she pulled me into the photo booth and took pictures.
Very cool. Did she like the shout-out on Friday night?
Oh yeah, man. She did. She was getting hyped. And you know what else I forgot too? I missed my oldest son Jacob's orchestra concert. So let me throw that out there a little bit. Sorry I missed your show, Jacob. But I'm glad we got home. We went to Black Panther on Sunday and we had a family dinner. So it was cool, man. So we all got to chill and hang out.
That's awesome, man. The shout-out was really, really cool, you asking your daughter to go on a date with you. That was beautiful, man. And now you're a semifinalist in the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. How does it feel to get past Roy Nelson, a guy who gave you a loss, and now you even the score?
Yeah, it was actually the fight really went almost exactly how we kind of envisioned it. When I first fought Roy knocked me down and beat me with an uppercut. You guys aware of that? So
repeat that one more time.
Here,
yeah.
Uppercut.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry. What?
No, sorry, I got confused.
Yeah, he threw an uppercut, and that's what knocked me down.
Yeah.
No problem. So for this fight, I intentionally did that uppercut as a great big F you. Like, hey, look, you knocked me down with one. I'm going to beat you with my uppercut now. Mm-hmm. And so that was part of my goal the entire time. Was make sure that uppercut landed, and if I could disrupt him with it, I tried my damnedest to do it. He got a great chin, but I've got some issues with how Roy conducted himself during the fight and how he conducted himself after the fight. But it's not necessarily worth bringing it up. I did it earlier in another interview, but he's behind me now, and I'm ready to go forward.
Well, by the way, that punch landed a few times, so. The work you put in, it definitely paid up. I think the announcers were calling it an uppercut. Other times they're calling it a scoop punch. Your striking was very, very fluid. I mean, the percentage of strikes that landed was high. And so I got to tell you, man.
I haven't seen it yet. Do you know what landed? What was it? Do you know?
I couldn't tell you, man, but I'm telling you were at a high percentile. And just everything seemed to be working. It was almost like a football team. You never had to see a third down. Everything was just,
Go ahead. It felt like my hands had magnets on them, and everything I threw went straight to his face. I mean, it felt like whatever I threw landed. I mean, it was ridiculous. And he's tough, man. Like he makes faces that would make me laugh, like him in response to getting hit. Because I hit him hard in the face. I hit him very hard, and just the way that he responded. He's tough. I mean, he walked through a lot of it, and I think I would have knocked out virtually anybody else in the world. But he's tough and he's durable, man.
Yeah.
Except for, we got booze. I'm going to bring it up just because I'm so salty about it. So a lot of people think that Roy won the second half of the third round, right? And then some people actually think that was a 10-8 round. So in that round, if you go back and watch that film, a minute and 45 left in the fight to about 50 seconds or so, you can see when I get put in the crucifix, I have an escape. Like I take my heel and I pull his calf into me, and if I squeeze my knees, it ends up being a sweep and I end up on top. Well, I didn't squeeze my knees the first time I tried it, so Roy escaped it. After he escaped it, he took his right foot and dug his foot into the fence. Actually took his foot off the mat, the canvas, and used it as leverage to push off the fence and drive into me. And to me, that shows no integrity whatsoever. if you're losing a fight and it comes down to nut cutting time where you have to do something to win and you cheat in order to try to accomplish that, that's bullshit. You're a grandstanding ass cat when you talk about how much integrity you have because you don't use steroids or anything else. And when it comes down time to winning or losing a fight, you cheat in order to try to win. I have no respect for that whatsoever. So, sorry about you. I am never going to be cool with you again on any level, and I'm glad I beat your ass.
Wow. Well, so
by the way, you can watch that on film. You go back, go and watch it. I'm not even accusing. I'm telling you. Watch his right foot from 1 minute and 24 seconds to 34 seconds left on the fight clock. Watch it, and you'll see he keeps. And then as soon as he leaves, and that's when I tell Dan Mitrione, his foot's in the cage. I tell him that, and Dan looks up and sees it and says, "Ray, take your foot out of the cage." But then Ray was hitting me with his elbows, so Dave was watching the damage and kind of just forgot about watching the foot. And then the moment that Roy takes his foot out of the cage is when I feel the pressure change, and I walk up the fence and get out of that crucifix.
Did you see that, Dan? I didn't see that.
So
I want to say I saw that. I actually think Terry might have said a nod to it, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I told Dan Mitrione, I said, watch, his foot is in the cage. So I could tell because my sweep couldn't work because his foot didn't move at all. I said, there's no way in hell anybody was that strong. No way. So for the time that he beat me, he was cheating. That's some bullshit.
So this is what you were saying, because we already know what I'm sure you have issue with after the fight, but this is what you're alluding to that you had issue during the fight then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, and I have no problem, dude. He was strong on his takedowns. He did a really good job. He did a great job getting in the crucifix. But I got mistake for that. And once he felt that he was losing body position because on a sweep, that's when he started cheating. And that's when he rained down, 35 seconds, 50 seconds worth of elbows when he was cheating. That's dirty. And if you consider yourself a person of integrity because you don't do steroids and you grandstand on that and how clean you are and I'm everybody's fighter, that's bullshit. You're a cheater, and that's disgusting.
Matt Mitrione, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He advances to the semifinals of the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. He will join Chael Sonnen and the winners of Frank Mir versus Fedor Emelianenko and King Mo versus Ryan Bader. Those last two fights will happen immediately here in the next couple months, and then we'll have 4 semifinalists. All right, Dan Tom, what do you have for Matt Mitrione?
Hey, Matt, Dan Tom here. We actually, I guess you could say, maybe shared a coach for a short period of time. I was under Neil Melanson here at Extreme Couture years ago, and I remember you come out and do some work. I guess my question was, who are you working with? I know you did a lot of wrestling work with Purdue for this camp, but who are you working with now for your ground, and do you still keep tabs with Neil?
Don't really keep tabs with Neil too much anymore. We brought him down to Florida, and things just kind of didn't work out. But I need a grappling coach, to be honest. Like we have some people down in Florida, but it's a lot more wrestling. I think I could definitely benefit from the situation from a coach. And if anybody has any suggestions, Josh Barnett's typically my dude, but Josh lives in California, and I'm almost never out there. So if there's other suggestions, I'm always down to learn from somebody. But it has to be a big body kind of coach who knows how big bodies work and strength and leverage. But so as far as grappling wise, I've neglected that to a certain extent. But as far as wrestling and striking, I've been trying to do as much as I can.
Awesome, and for what it's worth, I do remember seeing what you were talking about as far as that instance in the third round, and I pulled up an image, let's just say, and for what it's worth, Matt, not that you need me to tell you, but just for the listeners, yeah, I do see exactly what you were talking about as far as the crucifix position, but let me ask you outside of that position, Matt, as far as defending the initial takedowns or feeling Roy, as far as what he had for a level change and all that stuff. Was he above, below, or did he surprise you in any aspect as far as that, getting to those positions?
He did. His pressure driving into me on the shot was impressive. It was he used, and that's another thing too. I think that going forward, I have to change my MMA wrestling into a cage setting or up against a fence, because you can't really explode like that into a wall because you're going to jam your neck up or your spine up, you know. But you can explode like that into a fence because it gives. And then there's bounce back. And Roy played that extremely well. He did a very good job. He was very strong as far as, like, squeezing his elbows. And his entry level was lower than what I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be hip level, and really it was mid-quad level. So it was low, he was strong, and he drove in very efficiently. So I thought he did a really good job there. And he also, like, by coming in mid-quad, it effectively takes out your knee bend. So he would, I guess in reality, he would kind of straighten my legs out, and then I would grab right behind him when I couldn't bend him anymore and scoot me up and dump me on my head. So he did a good job. He didn't do anything when I was on the ground. He was way too passive on the ground, in my opinion, and that's why he didn't get any points for those takedowns. But as far as like his entrance on the shot itself, he did a good job.
Well, Matt, you know, I know there was some booze that night, but I got to tell you, I thought you did. I thought you had a great fight, man. Like, again, especially on the feet, incredible. The rate you were landing, a testament to your improved skills since when we first crossed paths, seeing you on The Ultimate Fighter to now. I mean, you really, really have a very well-rounded striking arsenal. And you've been very honest about the work you need to put into the grappling, so we'll see. Yeah, so far, it has gotten you into the semifinals of the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. And I imagine, you will be working on that grappling in anticipation of the Frank Mir and Fedor Emelianenko matchup, right? You're on that side of the bracket?
Opposite.
Opposite? Oh, excuse me. Ryan Bader and King Mo.
That's true. I am actually on. Yeah, I'm on Bader and Mo, and that's even worse. That's like some smaller, really aggressive collegiate wrestlers. So I've already been in touch with Coach Tyrell Todd here at Purdue, and a couple of their heavyweights, Jake Haven and Sean Strick. So I was actually going to go in and wrestle with them today, but I decided to take a couple of days off to let my body rest a little bit. But I am already starting to address the things I did wrong, and to figure out how to make sure that doesn't ever happen again.
We appreciate the time here on MMA Junkie Radio. Congratulations on your win, and hopefully we'll catch up with you before your semifinal matchup later this year.
Sounds great, boys. Hey, thanks a lot for having me on, man. I appreciate you guys taking the time.
Thank you, Matt. Take care. All right, folks, that is Matt Mitrione. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Mitrione, just like his name. We're going to take one more break here. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. We'll be talking to James Vick, UFC lightweight, who got a win over Francisco Trinaldo last night at UFC Austin, also known as UFC Fight Night 126.
Yeah, you. Can you please tap that rather large fellow on the shoulder and tell him it's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes? Thank you.
Barstool Radio is redefining how you discuss sports and pop culture every day on Power 85. Enjoy raw, unfiltered, and authentic shows daily from El Presidente, Dave Portnoy, KFC, Big Cat, Pat McAfee, Julie Stewart-Binks, Willie Colon, and more. By the common man, for the common man, it's Barstool Radio on Power 85 and anytime, on demand with the SiriusXM app. That SiriusXM app also houses the MMA Junkie Radio show, commercial-free and in HD quality. Check it out. Want to give a quick congratulations to Danny Garcia, who defeated Brandon Rios this past Saturday here at the Mandalay Bay Event Center. Got himself a KO in the 9th round. Beautiful punch that he threw and landed. It was actually a really, really fun fight. A lot of people didn't think Rios would offer much of a fight because of the layoff that he had, but he did very well. Big fight for Garcia, who was coming off his first professional loss. He had lost to Keith Thurman last year. And now he's back in the win column and looking to fight for a world title in the future. All right, let's talk to our next guest. James Vick got a win over Francisco Trinaldo. Last night was a Sunday offering for the UFC Fight Night 126, UFC Austin. He defeated him. Defeated Francisco Trinaldo, I said, yesterday, and he joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up? How you doing, James Vick?
What's up, guys? Happy to be back on the show.
Happy to have you, man. Congratulations on your win over Francisco Trinaldo. I know you were a little disappointed because there was no finish, and you've been a destructive force lately. But for Trinaldo's no joke, man. That was a great win for you over a tough fighter, and in your home state, it had to be one of the best nights in your fighting career.
Yeah, it was good. The game plan went 100% according to plan. Besides obviously I didn't get to finish. But I was a little upset with myself when I dropped him in the first round. I felt like I rushed in to try to go for the kill, and I let him get underneath me and change levels and get the takedown, and then get his wits about him. So I felt like I kind of missed the opportunity there for the finish. But yeah, I was 100% happy with the finish. With the win, and didn't take a lot of damage, and I felt like I would just. My fight IQ was at an all-time high, and I did everything I had to do to get the win.
Yeah, definitely. And now you're 13-1 overall, 9-1 in the UFC. I mean, sit back and enjoy that one. You know what I mean? That is an incredible start to a career in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, regardless of the weight class. And now I think Trinaldo was already a big fight, but even bigger fights are coming your way this year. Yeah, for sure.
Basically, these guys don't want to fight me. They don't want no part of me, any of these top 10 guys. And UFC is gonna end up forcing one of them to take the fight, and then they're gonna act like they chose to take the fight. They're gonna get forced to take the fight, and then there's nothing. I'm nothing but moving up blue skies in my future. I'm gonna step up, and I'm gonna get a bigger win, and keep progressing and be a world champion by the end of the year.
I know you tossed out some names before, and you tossed out some names yesterday. But now that you got this 9th win in the UFC, and you're enjoying a 4-fight win streak, now just tell me, who do you want out of all of them? Like, who do you want, and on what fight card would you like to fight them? It kind of worked last time you wanted to fight in Austin, Texas, and it took a while, but you were on the card. So I think being selfish and being direct seems to, have some benefits.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of different scenarios because I'm not sure. It depends. Like, so I have a baby due. My baby's due April 5th, so I might end up, taking some time off from obviously not training, but from fighting. Because to help my girl when she has the baby. I've been gone a lot for the pregnancy to help her. With the baby, and then we're going to have to move into a house. We live in an apartment right now, one-bedroom apartment. We're going to end up having to move into a house. So we're going to have to get all that done in the next couple months. Unless something big opportunity comes up, I'm probably going to wait till the end of the summer to fight again. But, as long as I get at least two more fights this year, I'll be happy with that. But honestly, the opponent, I don't care. I want the highest ranked guy possible. I don't care who it is. Anybody that's ranked high enough to fight, that's ranked high and will fight me, I'm taking it. I don't care if it's Kevin Lee, Chiesa, Gaethje, Poirier, Barboza, I don't care. Tony Ferguson, Khabib, McGregor, I don't care. I'll take anybody. I want to fight anybody that's ranked above me, and I want an opportunity to become a world champion.
So let me ask you this: who do you think is going to win the Poirier-Gaethje fight?
I don't know. I mean, I think Poirier wins. I mean, I think Gaethje's a punching bag. The dude takes too many shots, and he got caught. He got caught with a solid shot. It wasn't like he just fell from a weak punch. He got caught with a knee. His last fight. But people like that have short careers, man, and they end up bad long term, just sitting there taking shots, and everyone wants to talk about how exciting he is, and this and that. He fights like that because he doesn't have any choice. He has no physical attributes. His technique sucks. He's a brawler. He's forced to fight that way. And I think that Poirier, is a little bit smarter fighting IQ, and he's been in wars as well. But he's also beat the higher level of guy consistently. Gaethje really hasn't beat like I said before about him. All the guys he beat outside of the organization wouldn't even be ranked in the top 40 in the UFC. So in my mind, he hasn't proved shit. He beat Michael Johnson, who's 2-5 in his last 7 fights. In my mind, Gaethje hasn't proved shit. So I'm still going to pick Poirier to win that fight.
Who do you think wins between Ferguson and Khabib?
I think Khabib wins. I think that I think Ferguson is too content with being on his back. It's not. He's going to get taken down. Obviously, Khabib can take pretty much anybody down in the division, but guys can get up. But Tony Ferguson will accept being on his back and throwing elbows and playing rubber guard, and he's not going to win like that unless he just lands like a big elbow and cuts Khabib from the bottom or something. I just don't see him being able to win a fight off his back, and he gets too content with staying on his back instead of trying to get the hell up.
All right, I'm just for one, I know you enjoy Vick's picks, on fight night. So either way, I'm sure you were going to tell us at some point. But I'm trying to do a little bit of an elimination process here. The next big fight I want to ask you about is Chiesa and Pettis. Who do you like there?
I mean, Pettis is shot, man. The dude's 2-5 in his last 7 also. The dude's shot, man. He's too small for the weight class. Chiesa's going to get him down. Unless Chiesa gets kicked with like a big body kick or head kick, he's going to get Pettis down, and he's going to fuck him up. Pettis is too small for 55. He ain't got no wrestling defense. He's never had any takedown defense, and Chiesa's too big for him on top, and Chiesa's a good wrestler. And he should win the fight easily unless he gets caught on the feet because his striking sucks. But besides that, he should have a sizable advantage on the ground.
Vick is coming strong with these opinions.
Not a game. Part of these bums.
All right, last one. Felder and Iaquinta. Who do you like there?
I like Al. I think Al. Me and Al are good friends. We lived together in the Ultimate Fighter. I think Al wins that fight. I think his movement. Felder's a good striker, but he's a little flat-footed at times, and he's also. He's lost decisions, and I think that Al's going to throw volume on him, and he's going to move. It's similar to the way Ross Pearson beat Felder. I think that with the movement and the combos and volume, I think Al's going to win that fight.
All right, so I took some notes here. The ones that are left out are Diaz, Alvarez, Lee, and McGregor. They don't have opponents, but I'm just going to circle Diaz and McGregor. That's kind of a done deal. Alvarez and Lee are out there with no opponents. And you got Poirier, Khabib, Chiesa, and Iaquinta coming out of these matchups that are upcoming. Man, fuck, there's fucking lightweight is an exciting division, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Eddie Alvarez wouldn't dare take a fight with me. Come on. Let's be realistic. That dude wouldn't fight me. There ain't no way, a chance in hell he's going to take a fight with me. I'll beat his ass.
All right. Let me see here. I can't give you, because if you think Khabib's going to beat Ferguson, I'm being honest here, James. I just don't think you're getting the next title shot. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. Not that I'm saying that you can't compete or nothing like that.
Unrealistic. I mean, I can't get a number 10 or 11 ranked guy to fight me, or 9th ranked guy. How am I going to get the number 1 ranked guy? Yeah. I agree with that. I'm not.
Poirier seems to be a guy that'll just take anyone. You know what I mean? Lee's a little bit more, hey, give me this guy because it makes sense, or that guy, so's Alvarez. Poirier seems like the guy that just says, just give me whoever, I'm in. And then Chiesa was on our show on Friday. He's got a fight, so he really couldn't talk about it much. Iaquinta's got a fight as well, so I'm sure.
Who has a fight, so they couldn't talk about it?
Chiesa's got Pettis. And but you got Chiesa winning, and then Iaquinta. So I would say you're probably down to Poirier, Chiesa, and Iaquinta. So if you don't want to,
maybe Barboza. What about Barboza?
It's not a bad matchup too. But I think you want someone coming off a win, and he's coming off a loss. I mean, does it matter to you?
Well, he's ranked number 4 in the world still. I'll take that fight in a heartbeat. I mean, that'll skip the ladder about, and then I'll tell Kevin Lee and Chiesa, fuck you. You know, I've been begging to fight you guys for a couple years. Well, you lost your chance because, you know, I'm ranked higher, and I've begged to fight you guys before to get my opportunity. You don't want to give me a chance? Well, screw you. I would 100% take it. I mean, obviously, it doesn't look as good to fight someone coming off a loss, but if they're ranked 4th in the world, hey, I just skipped the ladder with a win, you know?
Yeah. All right, James Vick, our guest here on MMA Junkie. Sorry, buddy. What were you saying?
I was 100%. I mean, look at Poirier's fighting Gaethje, who's coming off a loss. You know, a devastating night. Dude got face planted, knocked out. You know, I mean, he's fighting him coming off a loss. So I mean, I don't think it looks any worse for me.
Let me turn it over to Dan Tom right now. What do you have for James Vick, Dan?
Hey, James. Just got 2 quick questions, but one random question though. First, real quick. I'm on your Instagram right now, and I know you're no stranger to shooting, but I'm seeing you shoot left-handed. Is that the picture flipped, or do you shoot left-handed?
I do shoot left-handed, actually. I don't know why. I've always shot left-handed since I was a kid, and I play pool left-handed as well. But I throw a football, shoot basketball right-handed. So I've kind of been, good with both hands my whole life. But I've always shot a gun left-handed. Maybe it's something to do with my eyes or whatever, but ever since I was a kid.
That's funny you say that. I'm real similar. I haven't shot in a minute, but I was trained to shoot right-handed, so that's kind of there. But I'm ambidextrous and not in weird ways where I'll shoot pool left-handed, I'll skate goofy-footed, I fight southpaw. But if I'm doing gentle or more focused work, like a writing or something, or shooting a basketball, something that I feel needs finesse, I'm using my right hand. I just thought I'd ask that because I noticed you will switch to southpaw on occasion too. You're not uncomfortable fighting from that stance, so that kind of makes sense now, huh?
I've been working on that the last couple of years. Probably last night was I used southpaw more than I've used it my any other fight. But I've been for about a year and a half to 2 years, but definitely a year and a half now. I've been working even rounds. I work even rounds. So if I do a round on southpaw, I do a round on orthodox, and I do even rounds in the gym now because I want to be good. Should something happen, I mean, you could break your hand. You could get kicked in the leg too much and have to switch stances or whatever. So I'm not. Anytime I come in there, I'm not ready for anything. So it's always a good advantage, to be able to switch for sure, and to be multi-handed is a good skill set.
Yeah. Speaking of which, that segues right into my next question. You never know. You could get hurt. You have to improvise and adapt in there. And correct me if I'm wrong. You didn't get the finish and all, but you actually were hurt. Correct? You said you dislocated a finger or something happened to your finger. Can you explain that?
I dislocated my finger. He threw a kick, and I blocked it with my hand. And I looked down, and my finger was like bent backwards. And I was like, "Oh!" And I looked up at him, and he saw it. I know he saw it, and I popped it back in place real quick. And I kept, moving and fighting because, I had to put a poker face on. It didn't, it just. I was more, I didn't want to throw the right hand really. I was more hesitant. I was trying not to throw the right hand. But if push comes to shove, I was going to throw it. But it stopped me a little bit, trying to set down and throw more power. I had to move more and, use the front kick, side kick there. But, yeah, it sucked.
Right. And I guess off that last question regarding that injury, do you think is it something that it's going to require time, or you just rest that? The finger's not a big deal. You'll be back in the gym in a month's time.
I'll be back in the gym in a week's time because I'll be doing something. Yeah, I'm always in the gym. I might not be punching with it obviously in a week, but I'll be back in the gym. I can shadow box, for an hour if I have to. I'll be back in the gym. But yeah, fingers sometimes take a long time to heal. Fingers, small joints do, but I don't think it's that bad. It's just really swelled up and purple right now, but I'm pretty sure it's not broke or anything. And, it's, my forearm's a little swelled up from getting kicked in it, my shin, from kicking him. It's, just typical stuff. It's just sore. It takes a few weeks for the soreness to get out of it and the inflammation to get out of it. But I'll be back doing something for sure within a week.
By the way, was that guillotine anywhere close? Did you have to dig deep for that, or were you okay?
It wasn't, man. And I know it's funny because everyone was panicking like it was. My coaches were even like, oh, they were worried about it or whatever. But I was like, man, what he messed up on is I'm like, why the hell did he jump to his butt and pull guard to do this? Like, he should have tried to snap me down and then go for it. So he kind of did me a favor by doing that. And then it wasn't tight at all, and that's why, I saw the ref looking and I gave him a thumbs up because I didn't, wanted to make sure I was good. If you notice, I started punching him in the ribs. I mean, if it was tight, trust me, I would have been fighting in the hands, not punching him in the ribs. But it was good, though. I was more worried about when he was in my half guard and he tried to get that head-on triangle. And he started trying to push that head down, and I was like, oh, hell no, because, I know he's finished 3 people in the UFC with head-on triangles. So he's obviously super strong with that move, and I wasn't about to let that happen. So I was more worried about that than I was the guillotine.
James, I thought you looked great, man. You made great usage out of your length advantage. The kicks were coming from every direction. You landed some punches on him. Overcame, like you said, a couple of the moments where he was maybe a little bit in control there with the grappling. And overall, post-fight speech, man, you hit all the check marks, man. Congratulations. That was a great great night for you out there in your home state. And we got some names down here. We'll see if maybe one of these will take the fight later in the year. I mean, you deserve it. 13-1, 9-1 in the UFC. So stay positive. Congratulations on the baby that's coming, and we'll talk to you soon when you get your next fight booking. But overall, man, what a great night for you.
Hey, thank you guys so much. I appreciate the support. I'm close to y'all now. We hung out, at the military thing, and did the whole the trip there, the tour thing there, and I appreciate y'all guys always supporting me and showing me love, man. Thanks a lot.
All right, James, take care. All right, we'll see you
later.
All right, bye. All right, let's take this last call here from Gage from Fort Myers, Florida, and then we have to get on out of here. What's up, Gage? How you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
Good. We got about 60 seconds. What's on your mind?
All right, I just want to know how many, I'm going to say 6 first-round finishes out of 12 fights this year. I just want to know what the record is for that, or if that broke a record. And what do you guys think is next for Donald? He going to drop down 155 or stay at 70 with his wins?
Ooh, great question.
That's all I got for you guys.
All right, thank you, Gage. 6 finishes, he's saying, on a fight card?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has that happened this year? Well, I mean, the year's early. There was a lot of finishes.
I don't think it has happened this year. I will say that. I don't have stats in front of me, but I'm pretty confident saying it hasn't. That was a lot.
As far as Cerrone, I would say he's closer to a title shot at 55 because of his popularity. All he has to do is drop down there and take on one of these guys I just mentioned. Maybe a rematch with Diaz, if Diaz would take it, if he's left out of the McGregor sweepstakes, or Kevin Lee, or who knows what. Welterweight right now, it just seems like there's just the logjam with the champion. He's got RDA, maybe Colby next, Usman. I don't know what's going to happen there. So we'll see. He's got options. That's a great thing. Anyway, we are out of here, folks. Thank you to Danny back east, Dan, of course, and I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be champions.